Hey guys, hope you're doing fantastic. I am recording this video to give my reflection about three events that happened at March 2026 and how AI development is sparking up a new threats that we never seen before and how to protect yourself as much as you can. Without further ado, let's dive into it. March 2026, mid-March till end of the March, we had three events. Two of them were attacks. One was an unfortunate event, but unfortunately, it kind of has exactly the same thing, the same theme. So what happened? Imagine, you're doing everything right. You're installing the security scanner in your pipeline, automated every deploy. One morning, the scanner is the thing that is delivering the malware to your machine. And to be honest, that's not a bug. That's the entire point of a supply chain attack. They don't go after the careless. Those attackers are going after the careful one because they know they will follow up and they will do the checklist and they will be careful. And because they are careful, they will also have an access to other things. In a 2 week window in March, the exact pattern played out in three different times, three different ways. Here's what happened. As you can see, we have three events that I mentioned. There was a Trivi that was poisoned, there was Axios compromised, and there was a Cloud Code leak. Trivi initial attack was on March 19th, and then it didn't stop. It kind of expanded through March 22nd to 24th. Axios attack was March 31st within just a 3 hour window, but you have to understand Axios is being downloaded more than 100 million weekly downloads. So that window attack was enough to poison a lot of machines. Cloud Code leak happened on the same day as Axios on March 31st, and it exposed 500,000 lines of proprietary code. The same pattern across all three. You'll see it by the end what I mean. Nowadays, we are at this situation where we know that most people are building with AI and they have no idea about what are the dependencies. What is the dependency tree? Not because they are careless, but because the platforms that they are working on made it seem like this is completely someone else's problem. People started going from something like Lovable. You generate the code, you just type in, and that's it. Then they level up and then progress to something like Replit that gives more flexibility to you. They go there and then they move into a Cloud Code. Nothing against any of the platforms or specifically Cloud Code, but it's just a progression that I see. And what happens as soon as people move into something like a Cloud Code that really gives them an opportunity to, spread the wings and do what they think they're good at, it opens up this can of worms where now you have to, handle everything else, not just the code. And none of these platforms handed you a map of what your project is actually running on. The assumption was always kind of like the platform handles it, someone upstream there is responsible. And that assumption was always wrong. It's just becoming an expensive thing right now. So let's look on what exactly happened with these three events. And as I said, the same principle underneath all of them. So, event one, Axios. Axios, if you don't know, is a standard JavaScript library for making an HTTP requests. And it's one of the most, if not the most downloadable JavaScript library on the planet. Over 100 million weekly downloads, as I mentioned before. If you build anything with Node.js in the last decade, it's almost certainly in your project. Again, 100 million weekly downloads. The number matters because it opens up a big ROI if you're gonna poison it from bad actors. Claude Code uses it, Replit uses it, virtually every Node.js product on the planet uses it. So, how did this happen? On March 31st, midnight to 3 a.m. UTC, an attacker had stolen an NPM account credential from the lead maintainer. They stole the NPM token, long-lived, no 2FA, classic credential attack. Then they poisoned two versions, they published two poisoned versions directly to NPM. No code review, no CI pipeline, just a direct publish. The malicious code wasn't even in the actual Axios package. It was hidden as a fake dependency called plain crypto.js that got pulled in automatically on the install. After that, the post-install script fired and connected to a remote server. That server pushed a RAT, which is remote access Trojan. Then it becomes even more interested. It cleans itself out completely. All the files, everything that can point to it, are deleted. By the time you notice something, the traces were already gone. And because it was pulled as a part of an official package, it didn't flag any security. So now, what happens? Well, in reality, you really didn't need to do anything. You just had to run npm install during a 3-hour window. The CI/CD pipelines are running overnight. Developers are updating dependencies before work. That's the window that was targeted. I don't think that this was a coincidence. I think this was the window. The malware self-deletes after execution, and you really can't forensically clean a compromised machine. You kind of have to rebuild it. Google Threat Intelligence attributed this to North Korean threat actor UNC 1069 that is active since 2018. The main point over here is they are active since 2018. 8 years. You never know what else they have in their store. And the problem is that, again, as I said, we are getting into this realm where there is this one attack can bring a massive ROI. So why now? Well, we have to understand one thing. When we build these products, whatever we build, we try to ship it, and if anything happens, we come up with a new product and stuff like this. For an attacker, if they have an exploit or a plan how to come up with the exploit, they have to be very patient. They typically don't burn the exploits when the pool is small. They will wait, because as soon as they will burn the exploit and it's going to be patched, now they have to figure out how they can do it again, which is not the easiest task. So that's why they're trying to be patient. Going back to the number, 100 million weekly downloads now is big enough because beside the regular developers, we now have a lot of AI developers that are doing vibe coding. Claude Code became massive. Gemini CLI became massive. Cursor became massive. Codex became massive. And what happens? If you look at anything that anyone is doing, they just say next, next, next. They don't even look what they are typing. So that's the signal that everyone was waiting for. The pull is big. And I don't think that this is, as I said, a random attack. To me, this is a very calculated decision to deploy, that attack right now. Now let's go to Trevi, the trust problem, as I would like to say. Trevi is the open source security scanner. You run it inside your CI/CD pipeline to catch vulnerabilities before the code ships. On March 19, the initial attack, and then it did expand through March 22 to 24th. A threat actor group called Team PCP compromised the Trevi GitHub repository. They moved 76 version tags overnight to point at a malicious commits. What this does is if your pipeline said Trevi action at version 0.18.0, you are now pulling whatever tag had been redirected to. You don't need to change again a single line of your config. The tag itself is just pointed somewhere else. The people most affected were developers doing everything right, running scanners, automating checks. And the scanner itself became the attack vector. Because responsible developers, guess what? They're using these scanners. The tag is just a pointer. Everyone who controls the repo can move it to any commit at any time. When the threat actor moved 76 tags, every pipeline following those tags pulled the malware without changing, again, single line of config. This is where SHA comes in. It's a cryptographic hash, and it is mathematically tied to one specific commit. If anything changes in commit, moved, resigned, or faked, the SHA will change. If you would pin it to SHA and instead of the tag and the repo was compromised, your pipeline still runs the exact commit you originally verified. There is no attack path. One concept and you have the entire defense. Why this wasn't being used a lot before? Because by nature, SHA is kind of hard for us to read. It's, a very long number. We are not really the best in those random numbers. So lots of people were still using tags. But nowadays with AI, you really have no excuse not to pinning yourself to a SHA and still using tags. Because SHA will change if anything changes. Again, we don't know what the future holds. As you can see, these attacks typically don't happen, and then happening one after another is an extremely unlikely event that we saw. So who knows what's going to happen, but this is a very important that you should do. As you can see, this is the entire fix. Instead of pointing to a version, you're pointing to a SHA. And I know it, again, you have to adjust, but it really takes 30 seconds to fix all the actions in your pipeline. And you don't need to worry about anything pulling down if the tag changes. The event number 3, which is a Claude Code. Unfortunately for Claude Code, Anthropic accidentally published 59.8 megabyte source file to NPM alongside Claude Code. Source maps are debug artifacts. They map minified production code back to the original source. They never supposed to ship this. The cause, the engineer forgot to add start.map to npm ignore and didn't disable source map generation in a bundler. One missed config file 500,000 lines of proprietary TypeScript code now publicly accessible. Now, something to point in the Ember thing here, and I'm just gonna move myself, is that while everyone were digging through Claude Code to see how to, get their own code better, what I find amusing is that, as you can see, as I said, Axios was used by everyone. It's a given. But from the code that Anthropic is using Axios as well. Am I saying that the Claude Code, or Anthropic themselves are, compromised? No, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying, again, now we have all these, teleports back to our Claude that are running on the servers or on the machines, and everything is happening, through a Claude Code, through Anthropic servers. But what does that mean? If that becomes such a lucrative solution, which I think it's already potentially is cooking, someone is already thinking about it, infacting Anthropic will give access to a lot of these machines. One thing that, yes, we can now code from the Telegram or Discord is a nice thing, but we have to understand, if we can go back and loop to our Claude Code instance, someone else also can do it if they will find the way. So what I'm saying is, you have to think about your own security by yourself and don't depend on anyone else. So after that, beside that, the Axios and the Claude Code, that Claude Code is using Axios, we see that we see a new issue where attackers, they did see the Claude Code, they copied the repos, and they started offering them with the poisoned files. But beside that, they now, with the full source code being public, attackers now have a precise blueprint of Claude Code execution pipeline and security validations. As an example, step 1. Now attacker reads the leaked source code. They know exactly how Claude Code processes configuration files. They craft a malicious Claude.md and publish it into a public GitHub repo that looks legitimate. Let's be honest, nowadays everyone is pulling all sorts of repos saying this is the next big changer, the next thing that's gonna explode, and they just pull and run it. You clone the repo, the Claude Code reads the ClaudeMD file that has a prompt injection, and it triggers something silently. Lots of people do not take prompt injection serious enough. There is, again, there'll be a whole different video on it, but it's still a massive problem, and I don't know how it's going to be solved. And now when you have this prompt injection, your SSH keys, your AWS credentials, your API tokens, now they are all stolen, and you don't even know about it. So from now on, moving forward, and we don't know till when, until Anthropic will release some sort of guardrail about how Claude Code reads its Claude.md file, you really have to download the file, read it, understand it, before you tell Claude to read it and execute it, or if you're gonna add it as a skill. You really need to understand what's in that file, because that will be your new attack vector. And the irony is that Anthropic built an fantastic adversarial agent specifically designed to test for prompt injections and vulnerabilities. Security validators are baked into the execution pipelines. One of the most sophisticated AI coding agents ever built. and the entire code base leaked because an engineer forgot to exclude a debug file from a package build. Not a nation state attack, not a zero-day vulnerability or exploit, a deployment checklist oversight. This is the principle underneath all three events that happened. Security is not solved by capability or a sophistication. It is solved by a discipline at every layer, including the boring development checklist that no one wants to audit and no one talks about it. Another thing to point out that we all talk about agents, how they can do cool things here, how they can do cool things there. But agents are not productivity tool. They have file system access, shell execution, ability to swap sub agents. When an agent is compromised, the blast radius is everything that that machine has access to. So, where are we with this? As you can see, the core thread connecting all these events. Attackers, they are patient. They don't really burn exploits on small pools. They wait until AI generated code was so big. They waited until it was so big that, we can now move in. The explosion of actual AI generated code installed and run without inspection has really created the largest untested attack surface in the history of software development. Nobody is reading the dependency trees AI tool generate. The code works, let's ship. And AI didn't create this problem. It's a human error, and trust without verification created this problem. AI just amplified it, kind of like what I spoke in the previous video about how AI amplifies the amateur. And now the pool is so big that we don't really know what else is going to come. I personally think that this will be quite an interesting and challenging time because there will be a lot of opportunities. Even like right now we are talking about it. Everyone knows about Axios, everyone knows about Trevi, but my question is, how many of those people actually went in and cleaned the code, or they even figured out what the problem is? How many of those people actually went in, and then if they shipped it to some sort of a customer or something like this, who's going to fix this? And the problem is that now, if we're going to be building irresponsibly, we are poisoning this revolution with just, garbage. Unfortunately, that's the word I have to use in this context. So, what I want you to leave you with is the 5-layer guardrail system that I think everyone should be following. It's nothing big, sophisticated. It's a really boring one, but if you follow it, it really gives you, more peace of mind. Number one is you have to pin the dependencies, exact versions, not ranges. And if you know that you have to upgrade, then you will have to verify if that version has any issues. If it doesn't, then you install it. If it does, you wait. And then you need to verify a layer 2. You have to verify the dependency. You need to know what should be in your tree. Anything that's unexpected is a red flag. That's exactly how Plain Crypto should have been caught. Like when you're asking it, hey, what are you installing? Ask every dependency, what are you installing? And then guess what? You're not going to be creating, completely different codes. You will always be majority of time creating around the same. And if you will learn those dependencies, hey, now you don't need to ask all the time, but you have to start asking. CI/CD pipeline hardening. You really have to start pinning to SHA, because if something happens, the SHA will be the first thing that will tell you, hey, something's wrong. Next, layer 4, you have to make sure that, pre-commit a secret guard is in place. Something like TruffleHog, it will catch secrets before they even reach the repo. The fifth one is the runtime isolation. AI code generation has to be run in a dedicated VM that doesn't have a lateral access to a production systems. And guess what? I'm using all these systems. Olena is using all these systems, and it's not really that hard to follow. As long as you're gonna do a few of these uncomfortable setups first, but then it becomes the second nature. So what do you do next? Well, you have to check if you have issues, if your Axios is compromised. You have to, grab your GitHub action workflows for Trivy actions. You have to find any Cloud Code MD files in the repos that you recently downloaded and verify them to make sure that they are fine if you're going to be executing them. And you have to make sure that if you check your ignore scripts, not just the npm rc, but all the ignore scripts to make sure that everything is fine. The full breakdown of all these events, every command and the complete 5-layer checklist, I did add it to a resource vault. You can get it with the link below. And what you're gonna do is you understand that security is not really a setting you turn on. It's a conscious, independent discipline that runs parallel to every line of code you ship, AI generated or no. Natural language that we use nowadays, and everyone is just saying it's a natural language, well, we have to understand it. It's just a new compiler, and compilers always had issues with security. They always needed to be audited. So full breakdown checklist is in the resource vault. Link is in the description. Take 30 seconds to check it out. But there is a bonus also. What I did is I created a Cloud Code skill that you can download, implement into your Cloud Code, and it will be telling you using the SHAs and using everything that we spoke here to make sure that you're trying to code, responsibly. Am I saying that this will be now your bulletproof shield from everything? No, but this will be a very good start. And now you will see how I personally start from small scale, security and build up on top. Hopefully you're enjoying it. This future is spicy. You have to learn how to love the heat. Check you in the next one.